All right, we are lucky, so lucky to be joined by the two hosts of the Mom's POV podcast, Kim Stroud and Monica Daniels. They are, of course, the mothers of CJ Stroud and Paris Johnson Jr. They really need no introduction. We're so happy to have you guys here. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for, giving us a unique perspective on what it's like in the NFL, going through college, going through high school. You guys get to see it from a unique point of view. Tell me, how did this all come about, deciding to do the podcast?
Yes. Well, first of all, Zach, thank you for having us on. Really appreciate the support and thank you to all the viewers out there. So the Mom's POV show stands for the mom's point of view. So one thing we noticed in our journey that there were very few mom's perspectives out there. And, the journey is so windy and there's so many things that go on that sometimes you need a resource, you need someone or something that you can kind of listen to or help you guide you through some of the decisions you have to make, especially when you have an elite child that performs at a high level. There's just so much that comes with that. So myself and Monica, we met when our boys were both just getting ready to attend Ohio State. And someone asked me, they're like, I just really need you to meet this mom. She's amazing. I think you guys will really get along. And took me over to Miss Monica, as we say. And she was just so beautiful and so welcoming. And she was like, oh, I'm so excited. I've heard so much about CJ. And then, we were able to kind of just talk about kind of our, what our journeys a little bit. And we just clicked from there. And so fast forward a few years down the road, we looked around. We're like, there's no resources for moms or just families in general that are going through the things that we go through. We should come up with a podcast. And so that's kind of where the Mom's POV show is birthed. And so it's been a couple years in the making, but we're so excited that we actually it came to fruition. Our first episode actually dropped yesterday.
Yes.
Monica, tell me a little about that first episode. We got a little bit of an overview of both of your sons' rookie years. First of all, what was that journey like, going through that first rookie year? And, second of all, what can viewers kind of expect when they listen to that first episode and kind of get an overview of what the whole season's going to be about, right? Your whole season of podcasts.
Yeah. Thank you again for inviting Kim and I and allowing us to share. What your listeners and viewers of what they're going to learn is you will get I would say, more intimate, transparent view. Because I believe that individuals have their own perception of what they think that NFL moms or moms in a collegiate sport, what they go through and what their experience is. And so we want to just share our story, be fully transparent, be vulnerable, just show our viewpoint. And also, as Kim stated, be a resource to other moms because Kim and I we had to learn on the job.
Yeah.
As I say, we was baptized by fire going through the process. And so we had each other and we're grateful that we had each other to go through that process. So we want to be able to use our platform to be able to encourage other amazing moms that are going through a similar journey with their kids. And it doesn't have to be sports. It can be performing arts. It can be their kids could just be an academic genius. And they just need that encouragement, that push to know that there's resources out there and that they're not alone. And also you'll be able to hear from our family. So you'll hear from our daughters, Sydney and Sierra, to hear their perspective on being sisters to their brothers as they go through this process and what the holidays are like for our family. Learning information about, NIL, college recruiting, how to pick a financial advisor, an agent, community service. So you'll be able to get a glimpse of what we go through almost on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And this is such real practical stuff. When I heard you guys talking, it wasn't like you were given a soundbite, right? You guys were very much diving into what it means for not only you being a mom to an NFL star, but also for your sons having to go through this for the first time. And I think that's something people don't realize. They see them out there on that field and they just think, oh, well, they're an NFL player. Well, how did they get here? That's the story. That's the journey, right? So what has it been like for you guys experiencing all this stuff for the first time, and for your kids experiencing all this stuff for the first time?
I think it actually comes down to, as a mom, at least my perspective was, am I doing it right?
Yes.
Am I making the right decisions? Am I being there enough? Am I being there too much? Am I, and so all those kind of questions you ask, because there is really no guide, and so when I started to ask myself those questions, I wondered, are there other moms that feel the same way? So I started talking to other moms, and I found that most moms feel the same way. No matter if your son is, or daughter's in a different type of sport, or if they are on a different team than CJ, it doesn't matter. They still feel the same way. And so it was really interesting. And I actually met a mom on vacation one summer, and her son was just newly going into college. And she was like, we just started talking while we were had our feet in the water. It was so funny. This came to the subject. And she was saying, I really wish there was resources that could help you, like, kind of guide, what do I buy for his dorm? And what do I, how do I know when he, checks into college and he starts playing football? When do I talk to the coach? And she's asking me these questions, and she has no idea that myself and Monica are working on a podcast. So it was just kind of reconfirmation that the need is there. And that there are a lot of moms that, just want to hear what we did. Maybe maybe that'll help. Maybe, it's just an extra set of advice for whatever decisions they make. So.
And
I agree.
Monica, you guys are coming into college sports, professional football at a very unique time, because here not only are the days are past now where it was a matter of getting a scholarship and picking a school. Now you're dealing with all kinds of different, things, different influences, NIL, having to deal with marketing, having to deal with branding, all these kinds of things. How challenging was that, going through this at a time where, college football is really kind of in a state of flux? Things are changing a lot.
That's a wonderful question. When Paris and CJ started Ohio State, they early enrolled. So they enrolled in January of 2020. So that was a couple of months before we were faced with a global pandemic. And so our sons had to deal with COVID, and what that experience was like for them, how it impacted our family. And then that led them into, is there going to be a season? I'm not sure if you recall, but there was a time where the Big Ten had canceled their season. And so we, as moms and some dads, we had to really just advocate and be a voice for our sons and speak on their behalf to help them reinstate the season. Then we move into NIL during the boys' sophomore year. So that was new for Kim and I. We were just learning on the job training. At the time, you couldn't even have an agent. You can have a licensed attorney, but for the most part, Ohio State was teaching Kim and I how we can advise our sons. So we were almost acting as amateur agents, going through the boys' process as sophomores. So Kim and I were bouncing ideas off each other and trying to figure out what we can do to help our sons. And then here we move into the junior year. And at that time, with Paris and CJ, just great opportunities for our sons to begin to prepare for what the draft process was going to look like. So Kim and I have been moving and grooving since January of 2020. So we have a lot of on the job training, and we just want to share our experience and be a resource, and also share what we did right, what we could have did differently. So just to share. So yes.
And what's so unique about your dynamic is that you guys aren't only good friends, but you became friends in part because your sons went to the same university, and you want to talk about the positions that they play. They're kind of dependent on each other, right? How much did that factor into your friendship? Just, being able to get to know each other because your sons are playing positions that are really complementary to each other.
Yeah, most definitely. I know for me, I feel like PJ was like CJ's like protector in every essence, and PJ put such passion into the craft that he is, perfected to the point now he's a pro, and he put so much personal like love into it, and you can tell by the way that he conducts himself on and off the field. And so I think that the brotherhood that PJ and CJ developed was more off the field than on the field, but it radiated onto the field, you know, with the protection. And I love O-line. O-line are my favorite players on when they're
Yes.
protecting my son, they're my favorite players. And I think
Yes.
that like with PJ, even to this day, I used to thank him after every game. And I try to think whenever I see the O-line on our team currently, the Texans, I always thank them because their job is so difficult. And they're protecting, you know, a quarterback that's trying to get a playoff. And that's so hard. And like Monica always says, because she teaches me too about the position, is that they have to move in sync with each other. And so much that goes into it that people do not know. And so I think because of that, I think myself and Monica were able to just create a bond. And honestly, Paris is huge and she's so little that I'm like, how did, you know, oh my gosh. But I could tell the strength that Monica has is exactly what drives Paris. He has the same strength. So for that aspect, they're two and the same.
Oh, thank you, Kim.
Yeah,
Thank you, Kim. And I have to say for us, and I may ramble a little bit, Zach, so I may have to put you to work with some
No
editing.
problem at all.
I may ramble a little bit. Because there's so many things going through my heart as Kim was talking. And so again, when Kim and I came together, it was very organic and very natural. And when Paris and CJ came together, again, it was very organic and natural. And first of all, CJ has such a beautiful, loving heart, very kind, very giving. He puts others before himself. And so it was very easy for Paris to naturally want to protect him and want to be a covering for him. And because of their relationship off the field, like Kim said, it shined on the field. And so CJ knew when he was there in that pocket that he didn't have to worry about Paris because Paris was going to take care of him.
yeah.
Because Ferris would tell me, I would ask him sometime, because Kim and I would travel. So we traveled to all the games together last year. So that was a struggle for me last year, is not having Kim by my side, because we went to every
Oh,
single game together.
yeah, yeah.
So so going back to Paris, and I would ask him sometime, and I said, well, Paris, I said, do you look at some of the comments on social media, if they're saying, you know, negative things? And he says, Mom, I don't worry about those things. He said, because you know what? He says, my job is to take care of CJ, because I have to look at Miss Kim after those games. So I need to make sure I take care of CJ. Miss Kim's going to be happy, you know, that I'm taking care of her baby, because I don't care about what anybody else thinks. I care about what Miss Kim thinks.
One thing to have your coach, but then it's another thing to have the other player's mom right there, right? That's
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's so cute.
you know, one of the things that I think doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, is the kind of people, especially that both of your sons are. You know, I think that fans, media, they often see the player who's on the field in the locker room, but to me, I feel like those players really aren't able to be leaders. They're not able to make that kind of impact unless they're MVP people, you
Yeah,
know? And I
sure.
guess, how much do you see of the people that your sons are come out in the way they play and in the way that they have success on the field?
That is such a great question, Zach. And it's very, you have to really think about that question, because I always believe a good leader always knows how to follow. And I think for CJ, that is something that he definitely radiates, is a spirit of just all the players in the locker room, learning different aspects of each player and appreciating who they are and what they bring to the team, and then following some of the ways that they have that make him a better quarterback. And I think that's what makes the Texans so strong. And I think that's what made Ohio State strong when myself and Monica boys were there, is because, you know, the family feel and the collaboration within the locker room off the field is so important. And the way that each player respects each other and the roles that they all play, and they equally respect each role, it translates onto the field. And I know from when the Texans first started, I would look down and I would see a lot of division. as far as like they didn't know each other, and it was kind of like you could see it in the very first year. And so, but this year, the end of last year, I would say, like the middle to the end of last year to this year, it's just a complete culture change where there's defensive players. Like, when I had a little birthday party for CJ, and most of the defensive players came. And I was so excited about that because usually there's a divide, offensive, defensive, but it's a love that they all have for each other. And it's just so amazing to see. But I think, like I said originally, I think the biggest thing about CJ and his character is that he appreciates each one of them. And he knows that to be a good leader, he has to be able to follow, and he has to be able to show, and not just say what needs to be said, but also show what needs to be done. And I think that's what he does on the field.
Absolutely. I agree with that, Kim. You said it. I'm in total agreement with that. And Paris did the very same thing. And one of the things that I admire about Paris, that he did, and I believe CJ did the same just based off of CJ's actions and knowing him, is that when they were drafted, and we all know when you're picked number one overall, no, number one first round, you have high expectations.
Yeah.
There's an immediate need. That's why you were chosen at that place, because there is a need. And
Right.
so CJ knew that the day they walked in their locker room in that facility, that they had a job to do. And
Yeah.
like they had to learn to be able to follow, to learn from the veterans. And then as they learn to gain the trust from the veterans and learn to follow them and get under them and learn from them, then they can begin to grow and walk into that leadership role. So I'm very grateful that both our boys took that
Yeah.
to heart, and they knew exactly what to do. And I'm going to selfishly say that Kim and I raised them that way.
Yeah.
So, because with Kim and I, we're all about, first of all, putting God first and
That's
being
right.
kind, being loving to others, and learning. Because when you learn, then you can step into that leadership role.
Most definitely.
And we've heard both of them talk about that to your guys' credit. That is something that absolutely comes across
Yeah.
in who they are. So that is just wonderful, wonderful to hear. And I'm wondering, this is a unique situation. You mentioned being a high draft pick, being in the NFL at
Mhm.
21, 22 years old, a lot of eyeballs on you, a lot of
Yeah.
attention, a lot
Yeah.
of people wanting your time, a lot of people wanting your attention, wanting, I heard you talk about it on the podcast, tickets,
Yeah.
kinds of things. I mean, just, everything coming at you from all directions. And then also having to deal with being under the spotlight, and being under the spotlight comes with negativity at times. How do you, as moms, help them deal with the inevitable negativity that's going to come along with being a professional athlete?
Yeah. Well, I think that on any level, it's hard. You want everyone. I think the natural reaction of human beings is to want to be praised, and not praised, but like encouraged and positivity. But you also know positive comes with negative, and that's just the way it is. And so, like for me, it's been a process. So I've learned I've learned a lot through CJ going from high school to college to pros, because he's always been kind of an underdog. Um, not, and when I say that, I mean like in the Elite 11 competition, which he participated in, which really put him nationally on the board. They called him the dark horse because CJ was like a child that really had to like fight to get to where he is today. Nothing was ever easy. His family life was hard. Opportunities didn't come very fast for him. So it was a long process. So during all that process, I think I learned how to have thick skin and how to teach CJ or try to help him through having thick skin. And I remember one particular situation when he was in high school, and there was a quarterback that was above, a couple classes above him. And they kept starting this particular quarterback, even when we were up by 50 points. I'm exaggerating, but they would still have that quarterback in. And then I looked over to the side, and they had CJ holding the signs of the next play for that quarterback. And at that moment, I remember the anger that I felt, and I was like, I will never allow myself to let my son ever see me
Yes.
stoop to the level of what people would expect me to react at this. Like, I'll never let him, I want to show him a smiling, loving face when he leaves this field. And that's what I try to be. So as far as criticism is concerned, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and everybody, if people are passionate about football, I get it. You know, they're passionate about their team. They want to win. So I get that part. But I think the Mom's POV show, one thing we bring is a human aspect to our boys, you know, our sons, that they're human, you know, and they've been through a lot, and it takes a lot for them to stay where they're at and perform at the level that they are. So I think the negativity only allows us to grow as a family, allows myself and CJ to grow as a mom and son unit. And, you know, you always turn a negative to a positive. So.
Well said, Kim. Well said. And for me, for Paris, he's done a great job of not receiving it. He refuses to take it in. And when he sees things, he just says, "Mom, I look past that, and I think they're not talking to me. I
Yeah.
don't, I have a choice if I'm going to receive that or not." And so I'm just refused to receive anything that's not positive and that's loving. And he says, "I'm okay with constructive criticism because I can learn
Right.
from that.
Right.
But if someone is coming with malice and hatred in their heart, why would I even take the time to even entertain that?"
Yeah.
Uh, so he's been helping me. I'm gonna be honest with you. He's been helping Mama because sometimes Mama be ready.
I'm gonna say that too. And Zach, you know, moms, we have a point of view, okay? And a lot of people don't want to hear it. Because
Trust
it
me,
goes, you
Kim and I,
know, those, yeah,
we read every comment. We may not comment on it, but we see it all.
yeah. I know. But you know, I'm doing better, and I know that like it's not personal. So I always try to remember that it's not personal, but it's hard.
Well, I will say, I think a lot of people are going to be very interested, educated, just everything you can think, entertained, you know, to be able to listen
Yeah.
to your guys' podcast.
Thank you.
Tell me, what are some of those topics that we're going to be seeing as the weeks go on here?
Well, you just touched basis on one. Negativity is actually a hot topic that we're discussing. It will be out soon. We also discussed a little bit touching into just like like kind of what our show is about, what topics we will be kind of just introducing the audience to us and who we are. And but going forward, we'll be talking about you know, every episode we'll be talking about something that's hot at the time. So, you know, things change so quickly in the NFL. Now we're going into the playoffs in the later games. So there's so many things that go on. So we'll be talking, but we'll also be reflecting back on some of the experiences we've had, like with recruitment. That I think that's a really big one that I get a lot from moms, like as far as when the kids are coming out of high school to college. You know, there's so many colleges to pick from, and it's a very hard decision. And then also, you know, like we already discussed, NIL and all the different facets of that. So those are a couple. And then one big one for us is charity. We have foundations. Monica's established her sons in high school, so she's way ahead, but CJ's has been established. And so like foundations are so important for people to see the human side of the player. So we'll be touching kind of probably a little about different things, and we'll also have guests on as well to kind of give their expertise.
All right. Well, we want to thank Kim Stroud and Monica Daniels from the Mom's POV podcast for being with us. Remember, like, subscribe, share on YouTube. You will definitely want to hear their points of view. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.